All right. Well, welcome everybody to our first episode of Monitor Keeping Podcast, brought to you by the Morelia Python Radio Network. We're under the NPR umbrella, so we'd like to thank those guys over there, Eric and Owen, who started this and have recently begun a whole network of shows, or helped begin that network, so that we can bring you reptile-related content. So, Kai, how are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks for bringing me onto these ventures with you. I really appreciate it. And it's we're just puzzling everything together right now, so it's all great seeing it all build up from the bottom.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's exciting, man. I almost don't know what to think yet and where to go.
Yeah. I guess just some what we'd like to talk to everybody about is just what we want to bring to the table as far as this podcast goes. I think as far as the growth of the community, kind of helping people out with their animals, helping people, but at the end of the day, helping these animals out really for the long run, and really just kind of embracing everybody with information and sharing things back and forth, and trying to keep this network kind of alive within this podcast. I know there's not really a podcast strictly for monitor lizards, so this one would be pretty good to introduce to our normal community and industry and everything like that.
Absolutely. And for those of you that don't know me, my name's Alan Stevens. So we're doing what we can here. And the truth is, in my own opinion and mine, I don't have a lot of experience or huge background as some of the other players out in this field do. But I'm hoping, along with bringing information to the people out there about monitor lizards, to learn myself and to get a good grasp of knowledge, and to gain some experience through listening to other people, hopefully in the event that I don't have to go through some of the mistakes, I think for the main part, that some people have already made. And hopefully we can also get that out to the other people wanting to keep monitors, or that are currently keeping monitors. But I guess we'll start. Kai, what are you currently doing? What are you working with?
As some of you guys may know, I'm known for a lot of the Mangrove Monitor lizard stuff. It's my go-to as far as what I like in a lizard, but what also accommodates me too. Size. I really got into monitor lizards with the typical water monitor. Growing up, just everybody loving Salvadors and just what they're known for, the intelligence, the crazy size. But realistically, I couldn't really keep that stuff. So I'm working with some of the smaller and medium size monitor lizards. Yeah, where they're not too big. I would consider 3 to 4 foot lizards good enough for me as far as size wise. So I mostly work with mangroves. I have quite a bit. I would say currently roughly around a dozen. And that's a few localities, a few different types. Not all of them are the same. Even within the same locality, there's a few different looks. So, and that's been really intriguing for me as far as how I guess diverse they are.
Yeah.
And the Indo species for one, but just going all the way to Australia, and even some of the invasive species that are like in Guam and the Philippines and such like that. They're just really cool to study. They're all different on every single island, even on parts of the same island. They're all a little different. And it's been a very tricky and more so sometimes even confusing just to study them. But to me, it's worth it once you kind of figure stuff out and you put stuff together with these monitor lizards that I'm working with. They're kind of all lumped together as mangrove monitors, but when you really look at them and get an idea of what they are, I would say they are among like water monitors or white throats up and down, or even non monitors. Very diverse every single time they come in, just a little bit different than the last one. And yeah, and then I also have Kimberly rock monitors as well. I do have a couple other odds and ends of monitor lizards, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be keeping them all or everything like that. I just just have like other random dwarf monitors and like random flavies and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd really pay attention and keep on with the breeding as far as my current projects are just mangroves and Kimberleys right now. And
You mentioned invasive species on Guam. I didn't know they had any monitors over there. I didn't know that was a problem they were dealing with.
yeah, so it's a um I guess it's a big thing. They consider them pests and they eat them. Now, I would love to do some type of I guess more research and dedication to the species as far as like give back to the animals in the wild, but man, they're like pigeons. They're kind of
Yeah,
just everywhere, and so me advocating for them isn't even gonna doesn't really. I mean, it's unnecessary just because they're quite prolific, and just from what they are, even a single animal, I've been able to prove that mangrove monitors. I mean, I guess it's labeled under all monitors, but mangrove monitors are parthenogenic, so that's also another really interesting part of my projects that I have going on, and a few of them just lay just because not even breeding. So yeah, that part right there is survival and durability of these lizards and being able to island hop and stuff like that, possibly from tsunamis and storms and getting to different areas.
yeah.
I say spreads out the diversity. I don't really know how they got to Guam. I have friends that have been stationed there, and they send me pictures. So that's really only what I know. And then also another gentleman, I truthfully forget his name, but I followed him from iNaturalist, and he would work on the farms there, and he would remove mangrove monitors that were pests and essentially eradicate them. Um, I talked to him, figured out what was in their gut content when he disposed of them and stuff like that, or got rid of them.
Wow.
And yeah, just yeah, my research has gone pretty extent. Not just trying to figure out humidity and temperatures and stuff like that, or even just the look of stuff, but um, just to the core of the lizards on the island for the people, and just things like that, because the people know more than anybody,
Right.
and that's even if they're lizards on a meat market, you're gonna get some information from that guy, and it's
Absolutely. That's
yeah,
business for them, so they're going to know some things about them.
yeah. So dealing with people like that, or actually knowing Indonesian people or people from the islands over there, um, has kind of helped me put a look of a lizard to a locality. But I've even been tricked because you get pictures of a mangrove monitor as a baby, and then one as a subadult, and then one as an adult, and they all look completely different. Even it can be the same animal; it'll just be a totally different look, and so you then have to puzzle even more pieces to the puzzle to plug into, and some stuff just sits there not really being added to anything. And in my brain I basically have a chart, you know of just lizards and islands and names of stuff, and I try to really basically put a pin to a certain island with the type of animal that I've come across or seen pictures
Right.
of, or things like that.
It's awesome, honestly, because we still have those coming into the country. So without somebody doing that kind of work, I know for years seeing them on tables and whatnot, you just
Yeah,
like you said, it's a mangrove monitor. If it's a little
right.
bigger with a blue tail, it's a blue tail Dorianus or trying to
Right.
figure
Well,
out.
there's even there's a coined name, and it's just an Indonesian type of mangrove monitor with a blue tongue, and slightly bigger than the normal typical Solomon Island types.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are a lot bigger and have a more like a bulkier head, not exactly like Dorianus's nose, but almost. And so they're coined as like Dorindicus, and essentially it's like a look of both. And that's another one that is very variable when they come in.
Right.
Yeah. So
I have to even wonder to some degree if some of these animals that might be considered part of the Timorensis family are in fact closer
Scalaris and
to,
stuff like that.
well, even just possibly Scalaris, but just some of these little islands, what do they actually contain? What are we
Yeah.
actually looking at? And just because it's small doesn't mean it's in that Timor family, but possibly,
Right. Like a
even
west
close
side
to
of the island and the east side of the island and the south of part of it can look way different.
right,
It's just how it is. Yeah. I couldn't really explain to you. Maybe it's just the biodiversity from each place that just makes the animal look different, you know?
yeah,
Um, and it just adds to the animal. So, but I'm not a scientist. Yeah, it's just the truth. When we're looking on one island, it could just look way different from side to side of each of the island. So, you know, your Timorensis and the Offenbergs and a few other species that come in all under those type of animals, man, they're all lumped together as well too. And who really knows about what else is
right,
available out there? Or I mean, just the looks,
right.
There's Kisar Island Timorensis as well, right?
Those are
And
awesome. Yeah,
that's the leopard timers, right?
right,
Um, and there's a few more that randomly come in, the reddish timers with the little yellow spots on it.
right.
I think you've seen that one, right? And
Yep.
so through the years, we hope that we have the right information and what we're spreading is right. But to be honest, sometimes it's what's just at our feet from that. I mean, he could be just an importer or um, uh, a flipper or just someone spreading information, without
Right.
even really having the truth behind it. I mean, and I think some places that import and actual exporters and importers that are collecting and poaching and stuff like that end of it, they lie about where an animal's possible origins are just to keep it a secret for themselves. And so maybe they just say something more vague rather than giving the precise location.
Absolutely. I know we do the
Yeah.
same thing here with just the whole what the gray banded king snakes and whatnot.
Right.
Good
And
luck
it's
if you're getting that true locality or where they were found out of those guys. So
right. Yeah. Unless like you were able to really track it down or you went out there yourself and found it there. Okay. Then you put stuff together. But
right,
until then, you're really just you're at the mercy of what someone told you. Um, and it sucks, but then there's people that are actually putting out good information. Even myself, with the mangroves, I still can't be like, oh, this is a biak or this is a sarong because, bro, I don't know.
right,
So I'm just someone might have told me, and you know, um, I, I may be good, but I'm not. You know, like 100% of, dang, this is this locality, this is this locality, and this is this locality. It's just I'm just saying a vague thing like Indonesian because it kind of covers a range of monitor lizards in that area. And then, Solomon Island are much further away on the other side of Papua New Guinea. And so, those animals look different. They have a pink tongue rather than
right,
having a blue tongue like the Indonesians do. And then there's even mangrove monitors in Australia. And in between those waterways and those bridge gaps between the two main areas, which is Papua New Guinea, and then just the waterways away to Australia. So that northern point. And Yeah.
So, but you've also had quite a bit of success with this species. I would
Uh,
say,
yeah. I mean, I would say the first couple years is just learning. I mean, okay, yeah, I've been keeping the species but failing for years. So five plus years. I mean, what I mean by failing is not just improperly introducing them, killing animals, possibly injuring animals. I consider all those kind of fails, but even like not keeping the scales right, just wounds, burns that, dude, I don't know how I could have prevented those at that time. I didn't know what I was doing because I was more inexperienced, I'd say,
yeah,
even if I was keeping for a long time already. Like
right,
you don't really know a species until, man, you either killed it or put it through its life cycles, like you don't know
right.
nothing. And so I've been able to have a bunch of females, go through a few males, and the luckily the females that I do have, even without breeding, lay fertile clutches. So I was able to hatch those first, raise some of those, and then put them back to either the mom or other females to get clutches out of. I've had multiple mangrove monitors lay without breeding. So
Now, with that, are you getting both sexes? Are you getting males and females in that situation?
um, I haven't had any girls yet with the Partho situation, but
Hmm.
after breeding, both sexes.
Okay.
So I've
But
only been
yeah,
getting males in the Partho clutches. Other
interesting.
people have been reporting females as well. I think like Jim Heck or um, John at East Bay as well, because
Okay.
he has his water monitors shoot out eggs all the time, and he told me that some of his were females when I was talking to him at one of the shows once. So
Okay.
um, for me, they've all come out male so far. I've only had, let's say, half a dozen, give or take. Um, some don't really make it too far out the egg. They'll hatch or come right to about hatching. I've had a few that pip and die or come out and die. I've only been able to raise a couple, like
Okay.
three, four, three or four. Yeah.
And you're referring
So
to just the Partho clutches.
just the Partho clutches. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're, I'd say, a little bit weaker. The eggs, I mean, I guess they kind of come from nothing, and so um, the female does a lot, and I'm not sure what the sequences are that she's actually doing, but um, it's essentially just that egg taking months to actually vein up, sometimes 2 to 3 months before I really see veins, like taking its sweet time.
Right.
Sometimes I'll see veins within a month already, a couple weeks, something like that, or even the egg ring at the top. But
That actually that happened with the sand monitor clutch. Half the eggs I saw veins, but the other half I wasn't seeing them right away, and they looked good. And I think a good solid month went by, and until I started actually seeing those.
yeah,
And
so man, for as far as anybody keeping monitor lizards, when you get eggs, just put them in the cooker, regardless if you male or not, because there's a possible chance of parthenogenic. All right, and sometimes people gauge the fertility of the egg or whatever right off the bat by looking for veins and stuff, and you really have to wait. So if the egg looks good, or even if it looks somewhat good, just throw it in there, and until it turns black and moldy and crusted up, then you toss it out. But
right.
yeah, I have so many people that come to me and tell me they have some female mangrove monitor and they throw away the eggs every time because they don't have a male. And I'm not going to tell them that every egg that they get is fertile, but in the 50 eggs or 20 eggs or whatever that they had, I would say one or two at least would be fertile. Just
Yeah.
the chances that I've seen, the numbers that I've seen as far as what my mangroves have done, other people's mangroves I've seen done, and so incubate everything.
That is what I do.
Yeah, incubate everything.
Everything goes in there till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, and
And then,
go ahead.
oh, I was just saying, and then maybe a few days until I get it through my head that they're done.
Yeah, yeah. They got to be sitting in another container by itself just to see if it's just all right,
Right.
like a 0.2% chance of life or something. But I still got my fingers crossed though for you.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's 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 like a real light, and it sucks to get turned off. But when you have an egg, and regardless of whether it looks fertile or not, and then you see like the mold set in, and it's all hard, and it's crinkling the right way or the wrong way, and it's like that light dies. It's like, oh man,
Yeah.
it's not good. And then you take a deep breath and move on to the next thing. But man, I've had to brush some of that off quite a bit this last 6 months alone.
I hear
Uh,
you.
yeah. I have Kimberly Rock troubles just because I've have to pay much more attention to them and support them a little bit better than what I was. And I think that helped out a lot with this recent thing that I just got. So I got a good clutch out of a female just a couple weeks ago or a week ago. And yeah, I was just doing nest box before, no UV, just calcium D3, typical diet of insects and rodents and chicks and eggs and things like that. But they weren't bouncing back too well at all. They would actually not eat. I would try to put food in front of their face. Typically, a female would hound food immediately right after. Those are great signs. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm back into gear. I can eat and go through my normal day and basically survive and live and basically recoup as well. But when they come out of nesting, and they do look saggy, they look like hell. But um, you know, if they don't start to eat and they start looking like they're going downhill, they can easily drop and just kick the bucket. So
I know all too
yeah,
well,
yeah.
unfortunately.
I don't want to have to lose any more females or any more animals, and so I started using UVB and even more calcium, and then I also cut out any of the insects that I was using at the time.
Yeah.
And so I still use the grasshoppers a bit, but no more crickets, no more roaches, no more mealworms. It's just chicks, mice, quail, eggs, and grasshoppers. And their support is a little bit easier on the bounce back, I think, just because the I don't know, it's the heavier food that I've been using, or the stronger bone content within each food item. Um, and so yeah, it's just they only have to eat like 2 or 3 grasshoppers instead of eating like 15 crickets that they're not even going to really
Right.
chase.
I do hate
Yeah.
crickets. I still
Yeah.
use them, but man.
Yeah, I still use them here and there too. I like to use them just as another diverse part of the diet, but I mean, they're horrible.
Right.
There's so many horrible things about them. But
And
yeah,
but now
man.
you have some juveniles also now that from the first clutch, right?
Right, and really just trying not to kill those. Yeah, trying to do right by them. I think you and I have been um kicking facts and ideas and stuff like that back and forth, and um uh, I guess to really simplify what we kind of been talking about for months. I've been really just giving my Kimberly more support, not just a nest bin with a little amount of soil, but I've been using dense amounts of soil where it's most sandy soil, probably anywhere from 8 to 12 inches deep, and it's heated. So as I'm keeping it moist, it basically creates a great saturation in the air instead of me having to spritz and spray it.
Mm-hmm.
What that was causing for my Kimberleys was just fungal infections, essentially. Just I would have just issues with essentially wetting the cage too much, and it wouldn't dry enough, or the areas would stay moist and damp, and then that'll get onto the scales, and that was causing me some issues. Loss of tips of tails or some bumblefoot for a little bit, and yeah, really, really trying to support them better. So I gave them much more dense humidity within the enclosure without having to spray it so much. That also helped me out with nesting because girls are now nesting in the deep soil rather than using the nest bin. And I may just remove the nest bin altogether to give me more cage laying space. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to make that decision just yet until I see them failing more. So, um, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, man. It's been uh, it's been pretty. I would say nerve wracking and kind of heartbreaking at the same time, just because some things you can't fix right away.
Right.
Some things you got to test stuff for a while and really, put your theory to the test and kind of just work out all the little quirks, the changes that you're no longer that you're going to be incorporating, and then the other stuff that you're no longer going to be doing, and then seeing if that works and sticking to it, because you just can't be bouncing back and forth and stuff, and so um,
Right.
with ideas, you just kind of, for me, I've had to adjust moving to Southern California, and I've had to add more humidity because where I am now is much more drier than what I was before. And in the Bay Area in San Jose before, it was much more humid because I get the Bay breeze and I'm 20, 30 minutes from shore. But here I'm an hour inland. So um, I'm not
Do you,
near water at all.
do you think that you mentioned having the larger nesting areas or whole cage type of nesting and keeping that deep substrate in there to add to the humidity and in the cage. Do you think that it is also in part because you're living in a much drier area? And I wonder, I can't help but think that in a more humid area or by the bay where you were, if um, that humidity would be more available without that type of setup, if that
Yeah,
makes
the
sense.
the humidity was available up
Yeah.
there, and just the fog that came in the morning alone, or that added to the normal just saturation in the air,
Yeah.
every day. Um, and so that from here, I don't really get that at all. I mean, I might have a tiny fog, but it's
Right.
not dense at all. And it's still dry where I look at the humidity and it's 20, 30, maybe 40%. On a really, some of these bad days, it was like 18, 10%,
Yeah.
so it's real low. And even from, I myself feel it as a person that has asthmatic and I need more saturated air. It's dry, but I mean, relating to like my animals and stuff, and or my projects, like my incubator too. My incubator was drying out much faster than it was in the bay. Um, in the bay, I would have to replenish the soil maybe every 4 months, closer to the last leg of incubation. With the last year that I spent here, I basically had to revamp that soil every 2 months,
Yeah.
or revamp the moisture within the incubator cup, the water in the cup, and then the what's at the base of the actual containers that hold the eggs.
Right.
Um, and so I've had to adjust for that. And then now that I also have a fan to keep with having too many hot spots, that also evaporates faster. So I've had to accommodate for that too. And so I just put a slightly bigger water thing at the bottom, and it's been helping out somewhat. But yeah, I noticed eggs would dry out fast if I didn't have them in something more saturated with water to create humidity for them.
Now, maybe something we should touch on real quick in that is just I'm up in the Northern California area. You're down in the Southern California area. And
Right.
although, to the people that hopefully will be listening to this, um, California is a huge state. If you kind of flipped it and put California on the East Coast, we would cover multiple states.
Yeah.
So it's quite different over here.
Right.
And yeah, you're more towards high desert, I
Right.
believe, out
I'm not
there.
too far from it. Yeah. So I'm like what would you say, the valley? And so I'm not too far from the desert, probably about
Right.
30 minutes to an hour. I think to Hesperia and the Mojave before, it took me about like an hour and a half ish, give or take, 145, an hour 45 to get to the Mojave. So
Right.
yeah, I'm not too far from there.
Which is an awesome area for herping. And we kind
Yeah,
of talked about that in the past too. Um, but yeah, so down there in that desert, I know it's super dry. It gets hot, and I'm guessing it gets pretty cold in the winter as
yeah,
well.
it's gets down to the 30s and 40s. I think now even almost into getting into March and April, where spring has already hit. The nights are still 40s, and now we're creeping into 50s, but they were still pretty chilly. The
Yeah.
snow, the mountains that are behind me, which is the I think part of the San Andreas Fault or whatever,
Hmm.
that those hills still have snow on top of them. So it's still chilly at nighttime, definitely for sure. And then the daytime, it'll reach to 70s right now. That's a
Yeah.
big trip. That's a big trip for me. It's the major drop every night.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I get that out here. I'm in the Sacramento area mainly, and yeah, we get a ton of temperature swings. It can be 110 in the summer. We can get multiple weeks, something like that, and then we get our nights down in the low 30s, which was just last week we were still in the 30s. I think it's starting to warm up now, and I'm fortunately near the river. There is some humidity, but when it
The
gets a little
American River
yeah,
or Merced River?
the American River.
American River. That's a
Yeah.
nice one.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
man, you talked about allergies too in the
Uh,
springtime.
yeah, I'm essentially dying. I have to drink water just so I can keep up with the conversation
Yep.
because my throat. Yeah, and where I was just at, so I just drove to Riverside to make a drop, and man, that was dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just drinking water and using chapstick.
But yeah, you got to think, you're keeping the species you're keeping with all the adult mangrove monitors you have that come from a place that is always humid, or I wouldn't say always humid, but a lot more than the high desert.
Right,
Um,
definitely much more.
you
Yeah.
know, you're kind of, I guess that's going to be something that you always have to be conscious of and be aware of.
Right, and at first I wasn't. At first I was just
Right.
assuming whatever I had going on would be fine.
Right.
Um, but I started losing clutches or some random individual eggs, and just cages even just getting much more bone dry faster than I would thought. So the maintenance had to be much more upkept, and just the regular being in and out of the enclosure, um,
Right.
which and some things were great, but not so much all together when you're really thinking about it. Like I am spending much more time with my animals, but the fluctuation of humidity rather than just staying constant is tough.
Right.
So I had to put more soil back in the enclosures, um, put more nest bins in there, and so that would help out with me having to go in there and miss so much, or more so creating more wet spots than I needed to.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so that's for the Kimberleys and for the mangroves. The mangroves I don't keep wet at all. I just keep them with dense humidity. They get nest bins and they have some dirt. That's
Hmm.
that's really it. I don't go full out and have a like I don't know. I don't have like 2 feet of soil everywhere or something like that. I don't. I just have it designated in certain areas that are heated, and that's where they go. And I'll spray the cages periodically, or I'll pour pitchers of water into areas, and that'll spike up my humidity. But I don't want to do that a bunch of times in one day. Maybe like once a week, I'm going to do that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about some of this stuff and what you got going on, I think it brings up some of what we also wanted to cover through and in this podcast and the ones to come is just how to adapt your husbandry for your area and where you live,
Yeah.
specific to monitors, because some
With the materials that you have too, just what
right.
you got laying around and what you're able to do.
Right. And I'm sure you've had it before, but people have asked, what substrate to use. But you're in Southern California, you're going to have the things that are pretty close to California near you or for sale, where someone over in, you could say, Maine or somewhere else in the US
Right.
is going
Wouldn't
to
get
have.
it.
Right. And so
Yeah.
there's no specific blend. I think that's why, we can recommend to some people with some degree of safety as a base, the play sand and cocoa mix, just
Right.
because it's a known product. And
Right. That's what I use in most of my nest bins. Now, my initial mix is not what I want. That's the ratio. I mean, the ratio is what I want, but the actual consistency of the whole eco earth and sand mixed together, that first look, it's not really what I want. It'll hold a little bit, but as that eco earth, that raw material there, the dust or whatever it is, as it breaks down even more, and the
right.
fibers break down even more, with the sand, it creates this thing called sandy loam, and that's what I want. It's a that product after the heat, moisture has broken down all that to what's at the bottom, um,
Exactly.
and that's what I want.
You
So
know, I tried to figure out what that was for years back in the past when I first started keeping.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, a
and
lot of people.
it was so elusive. What is this sandy loam? What is it?
Yeah, you make it, or you can, the. I mean, it's a good product if you were to try to find it in like a lumber yard or a rockery yard where
Yeah.
they sell it by the square footage, but you're not always going to find it. You'll find some other manure type stuff or weird sand stuff or gold track finds or something like that, but
Right.
you're not going to find this stuff. And now it holds. Um, I would say if it became dry, then you'll notice the difference. It essentially doesn't hold anymore. So the sand and soil or that mix is great, but if you're not adding water and heat to it, and it creates this whole breakdown and all that such like that, then you're going to be using it wrong, and it'll be really dusty and for you and all that stuff like that. So if you're not regularly turning this, maybe every few weeks, or you're going to check it pretty often, shove your finger down there or dig a little bit and see the density of moisture, then it's not going to be too pleasant to use. So you want to make sure that it's mixed and kept up and maintained.
Yep.
um, some things I do to maintain it, not just add water, but you want to cover it with some leaf litter or something like that, and it basically provides a protective layer, trapping the moisture in a little bit more, having essentially a slow release as the leaves are on top of it, covering it.
It's amazing how well that works too. You
Yeah,
know,
because the
it,
leaves will be bone brittle dry, but the soil is like you sprayed it.
yeah.
Yeah, and so it's all this is not. I mean, it's not new to the hobby. Leaf litter and just taking things from the outside, and not physically taking things, but taking a picture of what you see outside. Now,
Mm-hmm.
um, most people see just what's right in front of them, and they see from the floor up. But most people aren't looking from the floor down, and that's where some of this, where you're trying to picture how deep a nest bin goes and how far just their escape microhabitat goes. Like we were talking about that whole flavy nest and the whole gouldy eye nest thing
Yeah.
just not too long ago, right? And so
Yeah.
that is much. I mean, that's way beyond what we're already thinking. Way beyond, like
So real quick, that just to explain that, basically, I forget exactly how deep it was, but
we
um,
went for miles.
yeah, it was
And
incredible system, network, I guess you could say, of
it's like a
nesting
matrix
sites.
going within a circle, and it's like a if you were to picture, how cars go up this cylindrical thing in the whole parking garage. It's kind of
Right,
like how I went down,
right.
and
And
yeah, that was amazing to see.
to mix in the information that has existed for a while now, that species such as like Acanthurus are known for using these same nesting sites, and basically going in right after a sand monitor and also laying their eggs in the same general area using the same
Yeah,
entrance to the nesting site. I mean, like you said, there's a whole underground world that we don't
aren't
see.
aren't paying attention to, right? And
Right.
we just don't see it. It's out of sight, out of mind for some people, and that's where we want to kind of open, kind of get people to see, or I guess open they're seeing a little bit, and really kind of just point out things that they would normally never look at, you know.
Right.
And when building all of my enclosures now, I really don't think about, oh, what am I going to use for logs, and what am I going to use for, a waterfall or some type of water bin first. I really think about how I'm going to start the base. Is it
Yeah.
going to, hold well? Is it going to be, I call it a litter dam. It's just your lip that's going to keep the soil. How deep is that? Is that going to be waterproofed? Is it bulk enough to hold a ton of soil and sand? So that's a lot of weight and pressure going against the walls. Is it dense enough to keep from too much draft? So, like thin plywood is not going to hold as well as 1 inch plywood. You get what I'm
Right.
saying? And so, just how you think about the base from the foundation, and then as you're applying this to your enclosure, all right, my nest bin is now needs to be incorporated, and my nesting area or my big ample amount of soil is going to be need to be incorporated first. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, I can have a little tiny water dish because I don't really care about a bunch of big water features. That's just me though, and I have to worry about nesting first.
Right.
Um, and even if it's a juvenile or whatever, I kind of get them accustomed to it. I don't want to introduce a girl to nesting when she's 2 years old and dropping eggs. You wanted to do it years in advance, so that way she knows what to do with soil, knows how to, do everything. And so, yeah, you really have to think from the ground up, and then
And
worry about other stuff.
you will see that for the people out there that are maybe having some success for the first time or coming up on it. You might not even know female might be ready to lay. As you watch them, you will actually see the, I guess, inexperience with that first clutch and that female. Uh, Now, I've had females go right in and take care of business, but like you said, I've had other ones
Like, what are you
almost,
doing?
yeah. You know, they're throwing eggs here. I had a Tristis female. It's like she laid one egg in all kinds of, in all different directions, and that threw me off because honestly, I missed a few, thinking that I found where she had laid. No, she had laid everywhere, and since then she's really tightened it up, and they're all in the same area. But um, yeah, I think the animal itself needs a little experience with that as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's my main thing is to get people accustomed to that. Now, How I keep babies is way different though. I keep them kind of bearish, couple little hides, and they kind of dry out. I don't really want to keep them wet,
Right.
and so I just have a little bit of soil, if anything, paper towels for the first month or so, and then I put them on a bunch of soil, and they're
But now,
spending most of their time in between stuff though, and like elevated hides and stuff like that. So
but you're also paying attention to them. I'm guessing a lot more closely than
yeah,
you are
yeah,
your adult.
right. The adults, like they're kind of predictable. The little guys, I really got to make sure they're eating. So what I'm doing is simplifying it for myself 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to admit it. I'm taking away some of these like fully decked out setups because I would not put newborn hatchlings in some fully decked out setup. That's the worst thing that you can do. And it's just for the sake of maintenance and keeping up with the animal, making sure it's eating as it's a newborn. Yeah, it's you want to keep it in a smaller kind of just a bare setup or simplified, if anything. Now I still have like a tiny reed stack, or I'll have um, piles of cork flats, and I'll have some elevated hides and stuff to use on the wall. But really, I'm not having a ton of major hides in there. They're easy to find if I need to find them, but getting to food for them and everything like that isn't, you know, 5 feet away from them. It's all
Yeah.
kind of incorporated within that little corner of the cage that's only 2 feet. That's how I raise babies. I raise babies in kind of bare setups. It's to build a trust with them. So what I made the mistake of when I first have gotten babies before is I put them in a big 3 to 4 foot cage as a baby and expected to be tame, or expected to just be like like bread and butter, like some of these water monitors or something like that,
Right.
where it's just like, oh man, this is a piece of cake almost. Where these lizards, I gave them a ton of hides and all that stuff, and they used it. They definitely used them, and they hid and they did what they normally naturally want to do, and that's just hide for most of the day. Humans are kind of dangerous, so if I'm around, they're not going to really be around, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I've noticed the same thing, and I keep babies very similarly, very bare. Um, I also have noticed when the animals, specifically the babies, can see me, it seems to have a lot of influence on them as far as watching me, being able to watch me just move around the room, as opposed to I have some different baby setups that are just top opening so that they can only see through the top.
yeah,
And I've noticed a huge difference between the animals that are in the glass fronts or whatnot,
they can see you
that
all
are
the time,
that
right?
can see me. Yeah, that can
Yeah,
see me and watch me and see what I'm doing, rather than the ones that I have to enter through the top. Now, I make that choice because I have spent hours and sometimes days, you know, looking for lost individuals, and small monitors are quick and
yeah,
fast.
yeah,
And if you have multiple animals in an enclosure, one's going to go one direction and the other's going to go the other direction. And
yeah. Better be able to
yeah,
close that door fast enough.
right. And yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Um,
So
yeah, keeping my babies and keeping the adults is just it's almost night and day. Yeah, because I wouldn't keep the adults the way I keep the babies for sure. I wouldn't keep them drier, or I'd give them a little bit more. But
right.
it's like as an example, how chondro keepers kind of just keep a little twig for that one green tree python, or um, how like nerd for their water monitors, they just use that plastic hardwire cloth, and it's
Yep.
just folded up or rolled up, and it's used as a basking thing, and they can climb on it, and it is simplified as heck, but it just helps out a lot.
Yeah. I also think that, both you and I, we keep multiple animals, and to do what
Simplicity.
you need to do in a day and get through with the maintenance, it's important. Um, in that situation to be able to get in, know what you're looking at. You don't have to go digging around too much for an animal.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry
Stressed
about
over
them.
it. Yeah.
Right. Right. So I think it's important in some of these cases, especially. But let's talk
You know,
about.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Let's talk about your grasshoppers for a second.
Oh yeah.
How and this is about monitors, but they're an amazing food item. I can't breed them to save my life, but
Um, you know, the to break the science down, um, I just eat them and feed them. But it's not really going into major detail about like what I do like on the every day because it's a lot to cover. But um, I really just okay. It sounds crazy, but what I do is I use my monitor husbandry and I apply it directly to the grasshoppers. So I'm looking for optimal temperatures, not just what they are kind of liking or what I think they'll like, but I'm using temperatures that are up in 120s, 115, 110, something like that. Um, and I am also making sure that my nest bins are heated.
Mhm.
And so they are really just directed and pinpointed to lay there instead of just scattering eggs.
So by
And so
design.
that soil consistency is all, yeah, it's all just like how we put it to kind of predict where our lizards are going to lay, and they typically lay there. These grasshoppers are doing the same thing. And you know um, there are other people that I'm trying to help with this stuff, and it's not as it's not as easy just because now even though I just kind of gave you like the golden ticket on trying to how to breed them and stuff like that, the everyday consistency is different. And
Right.
so that's another committed part that you'd essentially have to take on. And if somebody couldn't do that and they were you know lagging on stuff or basically not putting their foot and an elbow into that shit, they're not going to really succeed. So that's the after doing them for a couple years now and really just trying to get a grasp of what I need to do on the day to day. Yeah, it's a lot harder than what I ever thought.
Now,
Um,
what was the drive for you to even start in this direction?
Daniel Bennett.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, advocator for Savannah monitors, great scientist, herpetologist. Um, did a lot for monitors in the academic end and back end, and just advocating for Savannah monitors um, and fruit eating monitors. The list goes on of whatever he's accomplished, and
Right.
so it was just conversing about what Savannah monitors ate in the wild. Um, and obviously they eat many things. It's not just grasshoppers, but an abundance of grasshoppers, and especially when they are in migratory season or they are just hatching out through the warming season coming up, they are eaten a lot by a lot of the animals. And you know, I just I gathered quite a bit of information on what's inside a lot of monitors' stomach in the wild, and so obviously I can't do them all. Some of them aren't feasible to do or too costly or things like that. But the grasshoppers were also a niche that no one else was doing. So I think some people were doing it on the low and the back end, or just a little bit for themselves, maybe just to try. But I was trying to really get them. I don't know, get them going for monitor keepers for the hobby in the USA. And so, my buddy Dean, some guy that I some guy that I knew from years, and we basically went to rivaling high schools, and he'd come into the shop that I worked at and stuff like that, and we'd be on forums together. He met me at a show. I think it was the Sacramento show. Yeah, and he just stopped me. He's like, "Hey, are you Kai?" And I was like, "Yeah, you remember me from back then?" And he said that he basically had a couple grasshoppers and we're looking for more. And I went on the hunt for more. And we basically put all our efforts together from his end and from what I was able to gather, and um, just work together 100%. They were first just done at shows a little bit, nothing too crazy, maybe just a few hundred grasshoppers, but now I produce a few thousand every month. So um,
And they are awesome feeders. My monitors, I ended up feeding them off because as we talked about, you kind of know my situation just with regular life and work.
yeah. It's the time committed, and so if you can't do it, you
Absolutely.
just can't do it.
But that being said, when I decided to feed them off, those animals went nuts for them. Absolutely loved them.
Yeah,
Specifically those blue trees, man. They
it's really why I love doing it. It's the trigger is it's crazy, man.
right,
I never expected it to be that way with a bug. I
right.
expected it to be that way with lizards a lot. I expected it to be that way with flighty birds, but never would I have seen my monitor lizard that's 4 or 5 feet chase a insect that's an insect, just
Right.
just just a bug. But it's the whole fluttering, the size, and just the whole. I guess the enticingness with just jumping around makes the monitors go nuts for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, so and I love them. So I wouldn't, if you don't have the time or whatever, I really wouldn't recommend anybody doing it. But if you're trying to feed your animal something different and you're tired of crickets or you're allergic to crickets and roach frass, I am too, and so I can't do those things in high quantities. So the grasshoppers have been night and day between all that, and so it's been quite pleasant. I don't really have too many cons, I would say, other than them flying, but I'm okay with that.
You hit on something I think important too, is just the fact that to some people, I recommend anybody trying to keep a monitor, or if you want to keep monitors in the future, go ahead and start a roach colony now. Get familiar with it and get your numbers up.
Yeah,
Uh,
save yourself some money,
right.
because
And
the
to be able to
monitor
control,
lizards cost a ton.
yeah. Well, to be able to control what your animal's eating, and exactly what those feeders are fed and what's going into your animal, there's nothing better. But like you said, allergies are a real thing. There's quite a few people that I know and that I've heard of that really have an issue with the allergies as it pertains to the dubia and other roaches. And fortunately, I don't have that issue, not yet. Hope it never comes, but it is something to be aware of. I don't know how bad it got for you, but from a few people I know, it pretty much put them out. It's like they
Yeah,
couldn't even be near them.
yeah. It's basically I can't really go into the room too much, and I definitely can't inhale any of that, like partial frass or just to dig around in there and then to breathe any of that up, but then also to touch myself, touch my face, touch my eyes. I'm done.
Yeah,
Can't do it. Yeah,
man.
man. And so the grasshoppers basically led me to doing that. I also did like death heads and ivory roaches and hissers. They just grow too slow. So
Right. I'm experiencing that now. I got like you said, death heads, ivories. Um,
yeah, orange heads are another quicker grower, but
right.
their diet consists of partial protein much more than some of the other roaches. They're a true omnivore, where they'll for me when I keep orange heads, I have to feed them like my scraps from what I feed the monitors,
Yeah.
and that's what keeps them from nipping at their wings, and it keeps their integrity. So,
Right.
but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that was
another
something
roach
I
to do.
didn't notice at first, and so I set them up just like I would the other roaches. And yeah, I started seeing the like you said, the wings. Um, and I didn't know that problem existed, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
So
It's a thing where I guess they're lacking something and they nip each other's wings to get that.
yeah.
So yeah, man. Not gonna lie. Doing the grasshoppers has been, man, a work of. I mean, not even like art, but like it's been giving me basically direction and kind of like I'm trying to say the right word, but um like empowering and really just giving me like a little bit of a purpose, just like a whole of like survival and just paying, even just simply paying bills too,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's I never expected it to be that way where I thought I was just going to do a cage or two and just sell it a couple here and there, but man, it's like the what I'm getting at the end of the day. People tell me about their animals, their parsons that were imported, their blue trees that were imported that weren't eating and now they're eating, stubborn feeders, and really the work that I'm able to give back to people with some of the grasshoppers and just things like that is a bit different. I mean, even if it's saying thank you for giving them grasshoppers so they don't have to deal with crickets no more,
Exactly. Yeah, that I
and
hate crickets.
my grasshoppers are. I've had to deal a little bit with some shipping issues initially, but now I mean they're a really hardy shipper. They can ship through the winter time. I ship them basically every week except for that jam week. And you know even then, like the week afterwards, they were fine. And so the consistency and durability with them and everything like that is steady. So like I have I had things where people were just getting roaches and the whole 1,000 lot or 10,000 lot would just be dead, and
Man,
it sucked. And it's just so much money down the drain and stress to have to deal with that. And then the fact that you don't even have feeders no more,
right.
So
Right.
working on a more durable feeder.
If you
If
could just kick your monitor habit, you could set up more grasshopper cages and
yo, I know. I mean, I told myself I was like, if I got rid of like 3 cages right now and like simplified a little bit more, I can have all the room that I was needing, sort of. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna do that yet. I don't know. I mean, it's just because those parts are still critical parts of my whole thing, and I couldn't be without cages. And I keep I wish I can keep everybody together 24/7, but I don't. I keep everybody separate, and so it does cost me some room, but it's better than having a bunch of animals that are fighting and ripping each other up, because that's what I got to deal with a lot. My mangroves, all the different types, whether female or male, are pretty cage defensive, or they're pretty defensive overall.
Have you noticed the same thing with babies that you've raised up? Do you treat them
Uh,
any different?
yeah, no, the babies that I raise up are typically a lot better. Um, I may have the bull in the clutch where he is eating so much more. He's like a third bigger,
Right.
like all of a sudden. And then I'll pull that one out because obviously he doesn't even need to be in there anymore. Um, and then I'll have to separate them, and just because I want the littlest one to definitely not have competition with that guy, because then he'll never eat. So I really play it by ear. Um, I try to keep them, you know, I try to keep most of the babies together if I could, and
Mhm.
if anything, in groups of like 3 or 4s, and that way they're all still kind of together, and they're roughly the same size, and or for sure the same locality. Um, and then Yeah, that way I'm not mixed up just because they all look alike somewhat. Yeah, in the flash, or if you're not really paying attention, you're just kind of they're all black with yellow dots.
Right.
So yeah, it all looks the same.
So where do you want to go in the near future? What are some I guess short-term and long-term goals you're kind of headed towards in your own collection?
Trying not to kill my monitors anymore. That's for sure.
Number one
That's
goal.
for sure. Yeah. Um, just getting better at it. Not taking them for granted for what they can do for me. Trying to really focus on understanding them more than what I think I already kind of know.
Right.
Trying to be humble about the situation because I have a really dope collection, and I have all my dream species with me, and I really don't need anything else much more. So, I want to take what has been put in front of me, and try to do the best at it, and get the Kimberleys to really go and really do them where I'm not just lucky and I'm actually, you know, it's consistent. And same thing with the mangroves where, all right, I'm getting to a point where I'm getting better, it's getting more consistent, and the clutches are coming much more regularly. But I have some behavioral issues with some of the animals that are just they're non-cooperative,
Mm-hmm.
and so, man, I don't know, just to do the monitors well and consistent with where I'm at now, and to get even better, that's hard. What about you though? I mean, you got I know I haven't really like put the spotlight on you too much, but you've got a lot of projects too, man. I really don't know how you're able to do well, like you have like 10 species of Uranus right now, right?
Oh man, I might, yeah.
Yeah. So and then you have not just a pair, but you have multiples of each species. And that's already a lot. And then on top of the Ptophis and the carpets and whatever, I think you have a rechick or something like that. You posted a picture of, right?
Right, got a pair of retics.
I don't know why you have those, but I'll let that go because they're small.
They're small for now.
Yeah, I don't know why you have those.
uh they're, man, they're gorgeous, I'll tell you that much. They are really something else. And honestly, their attitudes, since I obtained them, they've been nothing but little sweethearts. I hope they stay that way too. uh but to keep things, I guess, I do keep a lot of different snakes. But to focus on the monitors, I would say monitors are my first love. Um, Absolutely. If I had to keep one species, it would be a monitor. Deciding on which one would be a little more difficult. But yeah, so I would say my start back into this in 2018 started with a group of Ackies. I'm still keeping those two different lines of Ackies. I've been, man, holding back a lot as of late uh, for my own purposes, and really trying to set up the future for myself as far as what I want future animals to look like.
Your
Or
super colony.
right, so
Yeah.
as I'm holding things back, and as they become adults, separating not only the pairs but trying to pair animals that I really like the look of, or maybe I'm can hopefully enhance some different things in. Other than that, it's I'm having some success with the Tristis, which I absolutely love. They are very unique in the way they
Yeah.
look, that super black tail that they can get, and that neck area going into the head. Some are more like a maroon red, which is gorgeous.
And
Some
that's not Orientalis. It's probably, I mean, it could be mutts, right?
they could be, there's some past history that goes
Right.
along with them that started before I was even keeping
Yeah.
animals. Um,
Right.
so when I say, Tristis, I'm just referring to kind of what we have now in the
Yeah.
US.
In the U.S., there's
Right.
very few of the dark head specimens, right? A very,
Um,
very few. A
from
couple.
what I understand, but I'll also say that even within a clutch, as I'm starting to notice with some of the animals, it does vary quite a bit. So I currently have some holdbacks that you know look like they might be in Orientalis. There's no way I know the adults they came from, of course, but the variation just in color. Some of these animals are displaying, really
Yeah.
nice blues and reds, kind of on the level of the Kimberleys. And then I have other animals out of the same clutch that don't have those same vibrant colors. They have more of the black and gray, and still containing some like it's more of a brown than a red. But
Yeah.
it's real interesting to see, and I'm really interested to see how they're going to continue to develop. And so if that's the case, maybe I can try in the future to breed for certain looks and appearances and whatnot. But
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I have a couple groups of those now. Um, let's see, I'm working with the clutch of Kimberleys that I was able to get. So long story short, and full disclosure, got a good clutch from a
You're a
female.
Kimberly killer too.
I'm a I'm a killer. Went on to lose that female. She did have some egg laying complications. Uh, and then out of that, the good clutch that I got, 7 great eggs, 7 great babies. I have killed almost half. I'm down to 4. Now the 4 I have, I think we're over the trouble spot. They're now, I guess you could say, sub-adults.
Yeah. Yes, that's all, and they're really nice too.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I'm in this with you, just like we've talked about. It's we're gonna die trying in this world with Kimberly's. So we have that little pact going that we are gonna
Yeah.
figure the species out.
All of us. All of us.
Right. Right. And I really think it's important because the information out there is usually related to Ackies,
Jeez, yeah.
and where Ackies, that same care sheet can work across the US. And some of the stuff we talked earlier about in the differences where people live, it's not the same with, in my
The
opinion,
Kim.
yeah, it's not the same with
Yeah.
the Kims. Just as,
And
Kims are from a certain part of Australia, where Ackies are in multiple parts of
right.
Australia.
And
And
one thing I really wanted to kind of put out there, that what this podcast is about, I want it to be as free thinking as it can, even if people aren't agreeing. And like what you were mentioning about, sorry, give me a second. Um, Mentioning about a general rule that you can use for many lizards may still not apply to, even if they're like all Adotria, right, or all
right,
dwarf monitors. Like, it's just not going to apply. And you want to then start to think differently, or you want to apply some stuff that you haven't done before because you were just going by how someone does Ackies. And we're using Ackies as an example because they're easy, a lot easier to breed, and we already know that it's a good thing to recommend people that want to start into just getting the baselines down and having to read stuff, and they're a great teacher. And
right.
so the Kimberleys, though, they'll teach you and die at the same time. And so
Teaching
um,
through death.
what I want to have people understand is, if the methods for Salvatore or Ackies or any other varieties that was easier to breed, if it was that simple, we'd be breeding everything,
Right.
and we'd be having no problems breeding everything. But we can only breed maybe a third of the stuff that we are importing, if that, just Salvatore
Right.
and
Absolutely.
Argus that are still imported, and people are doing tree monitors in mild numbers. But What about Roughnecks? Or what about Dumarelli? Or the Indicus, all of the Indicus, Peach
Hmm.
Throats, Dorianus, Tricolors, Melanus, Obar, the list goes on. And so Nile monitors, Savannahs, they're essentially a little bit different than doing Australian types or the Salvators that a lot of people have been able to unlock already, and they take a little bit different quirks. So even though there is a slight general rule like having high surface temperatures or great nesting options, these monitors are triggered slightly different. Not all of them are just heat and feed. Not all of them are some where you actually have to send them through a type of weather change or pressure change because of the rain. It's just how's that phenomenon looked past. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Where it's a given where, man, the rain just drew the sex out of my lizards, man. It just did,
Yep.
um, and it helps out in snakes and a lot of other stuff. It's a thing that we kind of look forward to almost, the
Right.
rain.
Right.
And it's not just heat them and feed them. And even though that does work, I want to admit that does work for quite a few species.
It's a good base.
It doesn't work for everything,
Right.
and that's where you want to expand your thinking, or talk to other keepers, how they might have done it. There are very, very few white throat breeders or savanna breeders, and they're very far in between. And so you have to kind of gauge people's ideas and things like that, and really work out what works for you and what doesn't work for you, um,
Hmm. You
and
know, I'm
and test
having
something that you haven't done before. Really,
I'm having some issues because the other things I keep. Well, I guess go back. I also keep sand monitors and the Affenbergi, Timorensis, Similis, which are all very closely related, come from Indonesia. Um, and then I have a group of blue trees and a Savannah monitor. I think that's it. I want to say that's it.
I think you're missing something.
I might be.
I don't know, but we're not going to go through
Right.
it.
I'm sure it'll come up. Um, but the methods for me that have worked with the Tristis, the Ackies, um, I started there as a base with the Indonesian dwarf species, and I haven't seen any eggs. That's not true. When I first got the female, I've got a gravid female. She did lay. I went on to murder that clutch.
No, the
Uh,
one that you got from me, right?
right. Yep.
Oh, man.
Yep. I
Yeah, you.
13.
I don't know how you did that. You know what
Uh,
was crazy?
huh.
What was crazy is that lizard went up and down the state in a bag for a couple days, right?
Right.
It hung out at the show, hung out, and then you got it the weekend after, the Monday after, right?
Yeah.
And she then laid. So that female went through all that crap and basically stress and still laid.
Right.
That was what shocked me the most.
Absolutely. Maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe I need to send her down to you. You can ship her back to me. Take her to that show coming up, and
No, it's just amazing, like what they can go through.
right.
I never would expected that. So,
And she gifted me 13 perfect eggs. And it was an issue with the incubator. I walked
right.
in one day. I was working at the warehouse the night before. Everything was fine. I walked in the next day. So there's only about 12 hours difference, but I don't know how long it was like this. But I looked at that incubator and that temperature read 113, and I just about cried. Tried my best, but lost them all. And they were all good eggs, veins in all of them.
Yeah,
But that definitely was a kick in the gut. But at the same time, it probably was a good thing.
good learning.
Yeah, learning for me for future clutches of things. I haven't had an incubation air since. I've made sure temps are right. I've put in place different methods to safeguard methods, basically. Because we're not
And
talking about.
those safeguard methods is basically just prepping your electrical system and your heating and cooling system up well enough, right?
Right.
Okay.
And using in some cases not only using two thermostat, or I'm sorry, thermostats,
Yeah.
basically, to control the temps, and to have basically a kill switch thermostat. So if it gets above a certain degree, it just shuts everything off.
And that's for you, what, 105? 100?
I have that set at 93.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, at 90, if it gets above 93, it shuts off. And that's because the other part at the warehouse, I'm able to set everything up. So I have an ambient that's about 75 that fluctuates between 75 and maybe 85 if it's the middle of the summer and in the middle of the day.
Wintertime is set to 93, though.
What's that?
Wintertime it's set to 93.
Oh, just I'm sorry. Just to be clear, the first thermostat is set to 86 degrees. So that's what I'm trying to maintain. The other kill switch is set at 93. So if it hits 93 or goes above that, it's going to just kill the power to the whole.
Okay.
That's what I was. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for
No
asking.
worries.
I didn't want that to get confused. I don't incubate at 93 now. And another thing that some people still might not know about monitor eggs is they take quite a while to hatch. I think the earliest clutch I had was at, I want to say, 99 days, and as of right now still have a sand monitor clutch that's incubating, and I think we're around the 160-day mark.
Mm.
So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
they go through quite a few I guess season temperature differences just in my area, and I'm sure you've experienced the same.
Yeah. Going into having winter clutches that go into spring, it's it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And then having clutches that are in the incubator during mid and peak summer and going into fall, that's also a very hair raising time.
Yeah.
Just because I gotta make sure things aren't overheating, and have some cool packs if I need to shove them in there if the stuff goes out, or I pray it really doesn't, but it's kind of different all the time now. Man, your process though, as far as like your whole setup as far as heating and cooling, how much does that kind of run you? I mean, I don't want to get personal, but like it runs you that right there runs you a pretty penny every month just to.
Oh man, you're gonna make me come forward with the truth in this. So
Yeah, I
the
mean, I have to I have to admit too, using my AC is all the time and stuff like that is it's up there.
well, okay, I guess I'll say it. I'm spoiled. As of right now, the cost of the utilities is included in what I pay for the monthly rent
Oh,
over at
okay.
the warehouse where I
No,
keep.
that's great. That's great, man.
Yeah, so I'm able to run two heating units, and then in the summer I can get by with just using one. Basically, it's a heating and air unit, and one of those can cool off to where I need, because I'm not. It's I found it's harder for me to actually keep temps up in the winter than it is for me to cool down the warehouse in the summer. I can accomplish that through just limiting the lights and running that air. A few other tricks that I've had to implement, but it's much easier for me to. Well, hold on. It's much easier for me to keep the temperatures in the range where the monitors are fine. It's a different story with the snakes,
Yeah.
however. So, um,
They
but
have
yeah,
to be kept cooler, right? The snakes.
yeah. There's a few things that I just can't keep over there. So there's a few animals that I have to keep at the house. Um,
You want to stay low 80s essentially.
even lower, like the Asian rat snake,
Oh, okay.
even the morning gecko colony. Um, I had a day that I think got to, or I'd say a day. I had a week that got in the high 80s. They didn't like that. I lost a few animals during that time. Um, so it's taught me a lot, working in that specific environment. And also, I keep things a little differently at the house. If I usually always have a group of lizards, monitor lizards at the house, just for us to enjoy, for the wife and kids to also have a part in. And I have to keep them a bit different, just because we keep our house at your normal room temperatures.
Yeah.
Um, and
70s and 60s, right?
Right. And I also keep them in a full glass enclosure so that we can enjoy seeing the animals. But with that, I also have to set up the heating elements, the lighting different. So,
Yeah.
all these things to consider. And I think that's something we talked about a lot and that we really want to get out to people is, and you've touched on it a little bit, is there's multiple right ways. What
Yeah.
what you're really looking for, and what I hope to touch on throughout this process and these podcasts with you, is just the fact that um, it's up to you, the keeper, to think on your feet and provide an animal what it needs. And we say, heat and food. Those are your basic things for a lot of reptiles, but talking monitors specifically, um, you got to learn how to offer those items to your animal. And that might be a little different in your situation. If you're in southern Florida, you might
Yeah.
not, you could keep them outside, or you might not need to run the lights all the time. It's just going to be maybe hot at certain times in the house. The humidity is going to be great. If you're in North Dakota,
Yeah.
you're going to
You
be
run the heater.
right. But at the same time, the humidity is going to be about zero, and
Yeah.
you're really going to dry them out. So you gotta adapt. It's up to you, the keeper. Care sheets are great; they're a great starting point, but you have to be able to look at your animal and first recognize what your animal should be doing. From its attitudes.
Right.
The
Behaviors and stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so
No,
hope.
no. Oh, sorry, man. Keep going.
Oh no, I was just saying, hopefully we can help people and help ourselves in this process to really learn how to adapt and think on our feet, um, and
Yeah.
notice problems and make the changes necessary for the benefit of the animal.
Yeah. Since we're still on the topic, for me, that was a thing before, as I would I wasn't paying. I mean, even though I would pay attention a little bit to outside surrounding temperatures or surrounding humidity, that not within my enclosure or not even within the room, but outside, or
Right.
just what it typically makes the house as well. What I was doing before, I was basically struggling with heating, not the fact that I was having issues heating. It was more the fact of it would just work from just the temperature controller, but I didn't have anything controlling the room, so everything was just still so hot.
Right.
And then sure, the actual lamps would turn off, and it'd be a average hot. It's not maybe too crazy, but that was in the Bay Area where it only got to 90s and maybe 105 for one day. But where I'm at now is 115 for multiple days, possibly a few weeks of spread out temperatures like that. And I really couldn't sit them like that. And so having a whole controlled room is going to be a major game changer or key factor in how your animals do. um, just overall stresses from either much too cold or way too hot. And that for me has been a big thing. And Dave Bonowicz actually, really made sure that he was emphasizing that for me, as as far as getting my own animals to be at a constant, not have to go through such crazy temperature changes, and where the room I can control it, and essentially then the lamps all work really in my favor without having to kick off and on too much. Now, in for example, how that was working against me, sure, it was helping me save my animals by not overheating, but it would make basking such irregular. It'd
Right.
turn off lamps so much, and nothing was a set time anymore. It'd just be the cooling times after the peak hours that the lamps would kick on, and I'd have somewhat issues of then having to turn stuff only on at nighttime because during the day it was just so blistering hot,
Right.
and then they were super hot, and at the same time having to be heated at nighttime when they would typically cool down. So what I'm doing this year is having my room controlled a little bit more. So it's going to be uh 70s, low 80s. Anything higher than that is the AC is going to definitely already be on. And so um the lamps are going to be on during the daytime now, and then they're going to still have an absolute cool time at nighttime, because that's what I was taking away from them this last year before, was having them hot during the daytime because it was just so hot, and then still hot at nighttime when they should be cool,
Right.
because I was trying to accommodate to give them still basking times. Now, um, how all this stuff kind of just correlates together. It just I was trying to read my animals, and that's where I was just picking up all of this. Man, they were just so stressed out, not even really wanting to breed or do much or eat a lot either, and they would really do nothing the whole day. Maybe
Yeah.
come out to bass for a tiny bit, but not do anything. And then I try to come up with what I can do to make the enclosure, I guess, a little bit more I mean, straight up just cooler, but more so comfortable for them. And I had to work with no longer 90s and high 90s, unless it was just right around the basking area, but everything else was high 70s, low 80s. And that's what I've been working with for this whole winter. And they're much more active, much more, like, as they're eating more. I mean, more, sorry, as they're more active, they're eating a little bit more, being able to burn some of that weight off, staying a
Yeah.
little bit more slim, just because they're still going and they're not overheated. And that AC unit setup, controlling the whole room at a certain temperature, has been a key factor to me not having things overheat and overstress and not breed.
Man, as we're talking about this, as you're saying some things, it just really there's going to be so much to talk about, really. I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to it because um we could talk about the more tropical island species monitors that come from different parts of Asia that do experience, different seasons, but not to the same degree as the Australian counterparts, and how that might affect how we keep them over here in captivity. And we have talked personally over the phone, just the different ideas we throw around as far as cooling and um, offering that to certain animals. But also, as we go through this and gain more experience, um, what has been successful for us and what you're seeing, just as you're explaining the things you've been seeing now with reading your animals. Just really excited that we get to kind of document this in a podcast and see where all this stuff goes too. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited, man. And I want to just get through whatever, you know, um, just initial quirks that we might have. And I mean, really, it's a lot of good meat within each conversation. So,
Right.
um, Yeah, it's that's
And
good, man.
already we have, we've covered quite a few things, and we're getting ourselves off the ground, feeling this out as well, being this first episode. But um, I mean, there's so many things we've already covered that we can really pick apart, go into detail, and
Yeah. What I can do is, I mean, I don't know, I don't know if you want to conclude this or whatever, but what I wanted to do is just go over previous stuff, kind of dissect it some more,
yeah,
and build from there. Yeah, I guess just like a ball player studying their last plays or studying, how they messed up or how they can improve. That's just what we're going to be doing is looking what we did, what we can do better to the next one, and hopefully everybody tunes in with every chance that they can get to pay attention to what we're trying to say, and and this is one of those things I wanted to bring up too, where the idea of this place was to not just be about us blabbering or bringing on other people to blabber, but we want the beginners to come and blabber too. So,
right,
if you are listening and you got a ton of questions and you just are interested in learning them more, whether you keep them or not, or whether you're failing with them or not, and this is something where we'd love you to come and interact with us and join if you feel like it, only because it is not just to reach out to you, and it also teaches us um, just what some of these people are going through, but there are going to be hundreds and possibly thousands of people that can relate to you. And so if you're able to you know, put yourself in the hot seat a little bit, and want to have a Q&A with us a little bit on just the stuff that you want to know, or stuff that we may even want to pick apart as far as what you're going through. Someone else can really possibly gather a good amount of information from that. And although it does help out, the person greatly, the animal is at the end of the day is what we're trying to reach, and the mass amount of people having failures is still there, and so
right.
we want to help out with that. It's gonna be hard because I mean, not to make animals sound like they're disposable, because they're not, but I've had to kill a few animals accidentally to know what I know, and and you may have to do that too, just
Maybe
because
we should.
it's kind of the name of the game. I don't want to make it sound like animals dying is okay, because it's not, but we want to make it where our arrow trials are less less drastic.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
We could have a whole show on just how we have killed monitors, I'm sure. All the failures, and go over what's sitting in my freezer right now, and
yeah. Stuff that are just buried in the yard because it's that time. I never put them in a jar, so they're just now
uh,
buried.
yeah,
But it's it's a learning thing, and it does suck. It is a sour part of the game, and it can be actually, I would say, spirit breaking.
right,
But if you're able to pick yourself up and kind of dust yourself off a little bit, there are more lizards that you can fail better with, and then hopefully, succeed as you get there. This
right,
isn't a thing where you're not gonna you can listen to this all you want, but until you apply this year after year, after season, animal after animal, this is just going to be words to you, and um, the application and all that stuff like that takes a lot of error trial, and sometimes, man, we do a lot more failing than succeeding.
yep. May our failures be shared. Lessons
Yeah,
for everybody. Yeah, and to go a little further on that, we really want this to be a place for people to come together without that, judgment you see a lot online, different social media places. We're all in this together. We're all trying to learn how to do this, and we're all at different points in this experience. So, um, we're gonna bring on different people. Some people have been keeping for years, and have a lot of experience, much more than I've probably, than you and I together, by far. And we definitely want to hear from the beginner keepers, or even people that just want to get into it, that don't actually have an animal yet, and some of these questions. And like you said, hopefully we can help fill in some gaps and get you started in the right direction, and really how to think on your feet as far as keeping a monitor lizard, you know?
Yep. Now, I mean, I guess should we work on closing it out a little bit?
Yeah, I
Or
guess that's
yeah,
enough for now. Yeah,
all
one
right.
in the bag.
So you know, man, not just you, but we want to thank everybody that's been able to work with us to put this together. I think a lot of people are rooting for us and cheering us on as far as getting this started, and we just want to work through stuff. Eventually, we'll put stuff out there, but feedback is great. Interest
Absolutely.
and all that stuff like that is going to be what we are going to be thriving off the most, really. And if people are interested in coming on, even before we go out and start asking, it's kind of a sort of open. Once we get a few episodes out there, we get our little smaller details worked out, and you know, it'll be a fun thing. I really hope it to be.
Right. And so go ahead and any suggestions, any questions out there that you might have, any comments, go ahead and send those to Kai. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. You
feel
can
free.
send those to me, and then I'll direct them to Alan.
No, feel free to send them to both of us, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. Other than that, Kai, where can people find you right now?
People can find me mostly on Facebook and Instagram. Um, on Facebook, it's just Kai Fan, Khai space fan, Phan as in Nancy, and yeah, man, they can find me there, and I'm also on Instagram at Big Lizard 103. It's big underscore lizard one, the letter O, the number three at yahoo.com. I'm sorry, at yahoo.com. Or that's just also my handle as well.
Right.
And then I'm also on YouTube and other stuff like that, but we can get into all that stuff later. You can look up Mangrove Mecca, um, and but I those are it's a resurrected YouTube that I really only been putting a couple videos on there as of the last few months. But prior to that, I wasn't doing anything for 10 years, so you can get an idea on how resurrected that is. I really just skipped the whole generation of YouTube and just joined way later when I could have been practicing like the whole time or something, but I
Right.
wasn't. Yeah,
Right.
now I'm just a noob trying to keep up with YouTube stars and yeah. And I mean, Alan's available on what, Instagram and
Yep. You can find
Facebook
me
and
on Facebook at Origins with an S, Reptile with no S. On Facebook, and then Origins underscore Reptile on Instagram. I'm also on there under my name, but I usually reserve the Facebook page just for the close family and friends and whatnot, just to try to keep some separation.
it's not going to work anymore.
Right.
It's all just going to merge together. People will be impatient. They're going to hit you up on your page,
Right.
things like that, or you'll mess up and yeah, you just share on both.
It's
Yeah.
already happening, but
I
yeah.
wanted to. I mean, before we exit this one, how did you come up with your name? I always ask that every single time I look at it. How'd you come up with Origins?
Oh man. Okay, I guess I think as we experienced just trying to name this podcast, picking a name, coming up with a name is difficult.
Yeah, I had to change 3 names before I came up with Mangrove Mecca. And it just hit me like, all right, I guess that's kind of what I do here.
Right.
So yeah.
So for me, I guess long story short, there was a lot of things happening at once. Not only was I getting back into reptiles, with not only monitors but carpet pythons, that really, was a great opportunity. That was starting off. I was in a whole new direction, as far as my personal life. That was starting off. My wife, super supportive of, the animals. She helps me take care of the animals when she can. She's honestly a godsend as far as the amount of support that she has provided me in getting back into this. But also starting, same career, but starting in a new area. It was just a lot of new things happening at once, and with all these beginnings happening, it just seemed like origins fit, and then reptile, because I had no direction. I wanted, there's so many different things out there that I want, so I wanted to kind of cover whatever
Everything.
whatever the future might be. So just
Yeah.
that's kind of how it came together as Origins
Nice,
Reptile.
man. Nice, man. That's good. That's good to know.
And how did you get the name Kai? That's no, I'm kidding, man. How did you come up with that name?
It's not even my first name.
I know that you don't have to share.
Yeah, people will
Actually,
see me. People will see it though. People will see it whenever you guys PayPal me, you'll see my name, my real name come up, and that's a secret for you to find out. So
right.
if you want to send me $1 to find out my real name, we can do that.
Right. You're not getting scammed. I had to message Sky. I was like, who is this person? He's like, no, it's not a scam. That's me.
Yeah.
So, but I do believe, touching on names, I think it was John that kind of nicknamed you Indie Kai, if I'm not mistaken. Was that
Yeah,
the one
yeah.
that was the favorite that stuck?
Yeah, that's the favorite that stuck because people call me so many things, and it's I take it to I mean not taking it to the heart at all, like bad, but I cherish what people call me. I really
Right.
I admire what they say, and but I just want to be called Kai, or Indikai is fine, but yeah, I don't want to be called like God or some goat or anything like. I'm not. I really am not, and I'm just a guy trying to take care of his lizards the best way he can, and I just happen to be doing somewhat well.
Not killing as many as you used to.
Yeah, I'm not killing as many as I used to. And don't get me wrong, man. I've killed quite a few. It sucks.
Right.
Even last year, I had a female just got too fat and had issues digesting. She just had food rotting in her, man, and
Right.
I really had to swallow that one. I still am swallowing that one right now. So
Oh man.
and so I have her offspring, and um I have and other customers have her offspring. So I still have that line and her part of her alive still. So I can really I can keep things going if you want to say it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
We should maybe add in a couple animal loss in grief shows.
Yeah, I mean,
Support group for the people out there.
just more so of the danger. Like, man,
Right.
it's like you go end up one day waking up, you go to your cage, and you then have to figure out a million questions on what if.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that never changes. We'll
No.
continue to do that. But all right, yeah, let's I guess wrap it up at this point. And again, we just want to say thank you to Morelia Python Radio Network and Eric Burke for his assistance with getting this started. Also, the trust that comes with it and being under the umbrella, so to speak. Um, and we want to actually encourage the listeners out there to go ahead and check out MPR, the Morelia Python Network, all the different shows. There's some really good guys doing some good stuff out there all over the reptile hobby and talking about various things. So you can find something else you're interested in. Dogs started barking. I guess that's my cue, Oh, and their Patreon, go on and find their Patreon to help support what's going on. and to support the shows, the ability to bring new people on, new content, and new offerings to the listeners out there.
We really appreciate you guys for coming on and listening and paying attention. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one.